We were 2 months into our dream life. After years of renting in noisy apartments and saving every penny we could, Dana and I finally bought a home in Oakwood Heights, a quiet, picturesque neighborhood nestled just outside Austin, Texas. It was one of those communities with manicured lawns, white picket fences, and neighbors who smiled a little too much. I had recently opened my own auto repair garage just a few minutes down the road. Dana, my wife, had taken a part-time job at the local gym and filled the rest of her schedule consulting with a few law enforcement agencies, training officers on defensive tactics and behavioral analysis. A peaceful routine had begun to take shape. We felt lucky. Until the knock came on our door. It was a warm Saturday morning. I had just poured coffee when the doorbell rang. Standing on the porch was a woman who looked like she'd just stepped off the cover of Executive Weekly, a pressed navy blazer, perfectly coordinated scarf, heels clicking against our stone walkway like gavel strikes in a courtroom. In her manicured hands, a clipboard. "Mr. Calhoun," she said, her voice falsely sweet and businesslike. "Good morning. I'm Paula Riener, president of the Oakwood Heights Homeowners Association. We need to have a little chat." Something about the way she emphasized president made my stomach tighten. I glanced down at her clipboard and noticed a list several pages long. Before I could say anything, she was already flipping to a section marked with bold red highlighter. "You've been in the community for almost 8 weeks now," Paula continued, "and we've documented several violations. I've come to inform you personally." "Violations?" I asked, genuinely confused. "Of what?" She handed me a page and pointed at the first item. "Your lawn was measured at 1.2 inches yesterday morning. Our regulations require exactly 1 inch. I blinked. "Wait, you measured my grass?" "And this," she continued, ignoring my question. "Your front door is painted Lakeview blue. The HOA approved color palette allows only sky retreat or ocean breeze." "They all look blue to me," I muttered. "That's precisely the problem." She said sharply, then flipped to the next violation. "Your trash can was left 3 feet from the curb. The regulation is 2.5 feet. I stared at her. She wasn't done. "And finally, unauthorized landscaping. You planted sunflowers in your front yard without prior HOA approval." "Sunflowers?" I repeated. "They're from Dana's grandmother's seeds." They weren't approved," Paula snapped, snapping the clipboard shut. "Your total fine is currently $500. You have 48 hours to correct all issues or additional penalties will apply." I couldn't help it. I laughed. "Are you serious?" Her sugary smile vanished like morning fog. She straightened her back like she was about to address a courtroom. "Mr. Calhoun, this is a civilized neighborhood. We have standards. If you cannot comply, perhaps Oakwood Heights isn't the right fit for your family." Before I could respond, she turned on her heels and walked away, heels clicking like a warning bell. Dana had been watching from inside the house. She stood by the window, her arms crossed, eyes narrowed. As I stepped back into the living room, she didn't say anything for a moment. Then she asked quietly, "What did she say?" I held up the violation list. "Apparently our front door is the wrong shade of blue, and the sunflowers are a crime against humanity." Dana's eyes darkened, not with anger, but with calculation. I'd seen that look before when she used to help train SWAT teams. It meant something wasn't right. Something deeper. She didn't smile. "We need to be very careful with this woman," she said. That evening, while I sat at the kitchen table reading through the HOA handbook, Dana was on the ladder outside installing motion-activated security cameras. "Isn't this a bit much?" I called up. She glanced down. "No. It's just the right amount of prepare for war." I knew better than to argue with her when she used that tone. Inside, I kept flipping through the rules Paula had cited and discovered something disturbing. Half the violations weren't even listed in the actual HOA handbook. There was nothing about trash can distances, grass height, or sunflower restrictions. It was all fabricated. Meanwhile, Dana was upstairs scanning through old HOA newsletters and archived community messages. She cross-checked names, dates, budgets, gathering context like she was building a case. She's a textbook narcissist with control issues, Dana said later that night. The way she presented herself, the exaggerated authority, the immediate escalation. She's not just enforcing rules, she's looking for obedience. So, what do? Dana looked up. We prepare. People like Paula don't stop unless they're stopped. Just as she said it, the phone rang. Unknown number. Picked it up. Hello, Mr. Calhoun, came Paula's voice, now icy cold. Tomorrow morning at 9 a.m., I'm sending my inspection team to examine your property. Be ready to let them in. You have no right. They have every right, she interrupted. Sweet dreams. Click. I looked at Dana. She was already reaching for her phone. We're documenting everything from now on, she said. Every word. Every step. The next morning, I was half-dressed and sipping lukewarm coffee when a knock came at the door. 3 sharp raps. Through the peephole, I saw a tall man in what looked like a police uniform, minus any insignia I recognized. The badge on his chest looked plastic. He wore black cargo pants, a wrinkled shirt with HOA enforcement stitched in crooked letters, and carried a sidearm in a shoulder holster. He looked like a child playing dress-up at a crime scene. Opened the door slowly. Good morning, Mr. Calhoun, he said in a monotone voice. I'm Marty Knox, HOA enforcement officer. I'm here to conduct an interior inspection of your home. My eyes narrowed. HOA enforcement? What is that? Marty stepped forward slightly, trying to loom over me. I handle problem residents who don't want to follow the rules. And what rules give you the right to enter my home? His smile widened cold and hollow. Mrs. Riener has authorized full inspection rights in cases of severe non-compliance. Before I could respond, Dana stepped onto the porch behind me, holding her phone. Camera already recording. Hi there, she said with disarming cheer. I'm Dana Calhoun. Can I see your badge? Marty stiffened. I don't have it on me. Dana smiled wider. You're here on official inspection business and forgot your credentials? I'm not a cop, he replied, eyes darting. Then you have no legal authority to be on our property. Leave, Marty hesitated, then took a step back. You'll regret this, he muttered. Dana replied calmly. I've heard that before. It never ends well for the person saying it. He left, but the battle had officially begun. Over the next 5 days, things escalated. Each morning we found a new violation taped to our front door like a ransom note. The charges became more absurd with every passing day. Parking the car at a non-regulation angle, overly fragrant homemade bread causing olfactory disruption, grass growth resuming without weekly HOA notification. Each fine came with a new dollar amount. By the end of the week, $1,500 in total citations. I was ready to explode, but Dana stayed calm. She updated camera logs daily. She saved digital copies of every notice. And she kept scanning Paula's behavior for patterns. She's testing boundaries, Dana said. She wants us to lose it, to react. Once we do, she have justification to escalate further. She's already at DEFCON 2, I grumbled. That means she's not done yet, Dana replied quietly. The next move will be bigger. And right on cue, it was. On the 6th morning, 2 men stood on our lawn. One of them was Marty, the other, a man in an identical fake uniform, face half covered with sunglasses and a thin mustache. Both carried weapons, and they weren't there for inspection. It was early morning when the shadows stretched long across our lawn, and I saw them, Marty, and a new companion standing beside him. Both wore those same knockoff police uniforms that looked like they'd been bought off a Halloween clearance rack. Their matching dark sunglasses and fake badges glinted in the sun like cheap theater props. They stood at the edge of our property like they owned it. Dana was already by the window, recording. "This is it," she said. "They're going to push harder today." I stepped out onto the porch, forcing my voice to stay steady. "Can I help you?" Marty gave me a smirk that sent a chill down my spine. "This is Officer Rodriguez," he said, gesturing toward the second man. "We're conducting a legal inspection under HOA authority. We have a warrant." He handed me a crumpled piece of paper. I unfolded it and nearly laughed. It was printed in Comic Sans. It had typos like Property Inception and no signatures. No seal, just a barely legible watermark that looked like someone had traced the word official by hand. "This is a joke," I said, holding the paper like a dirty tissue. "This isn't a warrant. You're obstructing a law enforcement investigation," Rodriguez snapped, his hand moving to rest on the butt of his gun like we were in the middle of a standoff in a bad western. Heard the creak of the door behind me and turned slightly. Dana. Stepped out, camera in hand, calm as a glacier. "Gentlemen," she said, voice laced with dangerous charm, "would you be kind enough to state your badge numbers? I'm documenting this interaction for our legal team." Rodriguez blinked like a deer in headlights. "You don't need that information," he muttered. "Oh, but I do," Dana replied sweetly. "Impersonating a law enforcement officer is a federal offense, 10 years minimum. You'd be surprised how easy it is to trace a fake badge back to a printer." Marty looked at Rodriguez. Rodriguez looked at the camera, and they both turned and walked fast toward a black SUV idling at the curb. We stood in silence as they drove off, their tires squealing like a pair of scared teenagers. Dana didn't stop filming until they were gone. Then she turned to me, eyes cold and focused. "We have them," she said. That night, Dana uploaded the footage to our secure cloud and made copies on 2 flash drives. She handed me one, slipped the other into a safety deposit box. "You think they'll really come back?" I asked. "They'll try," she said, "but they won't get another chance." The next day, we went about our lives like normal, or tried to. But Paula Riener wasn't done with us. At the monthly HOA meeting, she stood in front of 20 residents and said, "The Calhoun family has violated neighborhood policies 47 times in the past 2 weeks. They've refused all attempts at compliance, even threatening our security officers." Dana and I weren't invited to the meeting, but word spread quickly. Our neighbors, who once waved cheerfully, who brought us pies and congratulated us on the garden, now averted their eyes. When I opened my garage that week, customers didn't show. Dana went to the local store and overheard someone whisper, "That's her, the cop wife, the problem one." It was like we had been marked. We became outcasts. Only one neighbor dared speak to us. Na and Carter, an elderly widow with a walker and a sharp tongue, lived next door. She watched everything from her front porch. "Don't let them break you, honey," she said to Dana one afternoon. "I've lived here 40 years. Paula Riener's a dictator with a clipboard, but people are scared of her because she bites back." Dana smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. "She's about to bite off more than she can chew." By now, Dana had over 24 videos archived, each documenting false violations, verbal threats, and impersonation attempts. She compiled them into one tight file and sent it to a contact from her days training police departments. An old friend of hers now worked in federal oversight. Quiet, low profile, and with more reach than Paula could imagine. 3 days passed. Then an email arrived. "We're opening an investigation. Secure your devices. Expect contact soon. Dana didn't flinch. Me. I started breathing easier for the first time in weeks. And then like sharks. Smelling blood, Marty and Rodriguez came back. It was dusk when the knock came again. I opened the door with Dana standing just behind me, recording already. There they were, same fake uniforms, same smug attitudes, but this time no clipboard. Just 2 sets of cold eyes and another typed warrant. This one even sloppier than the last. You're under investigation, Rodriguez said. If you don't comply, we'll be forced to restrain you. Go ahead, Dana said, stepping forward. I'll live stream it. She raised her phone. You have 5 seconds to leave before we call the real police, she said. And just so you know, we've submitted all your footage to federal authorities, including the moment you threatened me during my jog last week. Marty paled. What footage? Oh, she smiled. You didn't see the camera and the bird feeder? They backed off, visibly shaken, and walked away with none of their usual arrogance. That night, a quiet settled over the neighborhood, but we knew the real storm was still coming. It happened 2 days later. 6 black SUVs pulled into Oakwood Heights. Like clockwork, federal agents in plain clothes began knocking on doors, flashing badges, asking for access to HOA records, financial statements, inspection authorizations. They moved fast, professional, and without warning. Marty Knox and Rodriguez were arrested before noon. Turns out both men had prior criminal records and were being paid under the table by Paula Reiner using HOA funds marked as security budget. The fake inspections, the threats, the forged warrants all tied back to her. At 3:47 p.m. Paula was let out of her pristine 2-story home in handcuffs, still in her power blazer, yelling about entrapment and community protection. None of it mattered. FBI agents had found $112,000 missing from HOA accounts, hidden in shell companies run through a defunct landscaping business Paula had set up years earlier. The entire neighborhood watched from their windows. I stood beside Dana, who didn't flinch. That's what happens, she said, when you underestimate the quiet woman with the camera. The footage of Paula Reiner being let out of her home in handcuffs went viral within hours. Someone in the neighborhood, likely one of the same people who'd once looked away from us in the grocery store, recorded the entire thing from their Ring camera and uploaded it. Within 24 hours, it had 80,000 views under the title, HOA Tyrant Arrested by FBI Thought She Owned the Neighborhood. The comments were brutal, but the real shock came when the FBI revealed what they had found. Over $112,000 siphoned from the HOA reserve account into a fake landscaping consultancy set up under a false name. Dozens of fabricated citations and violations, issued by Paula to select homeowners, usually newcomers or people who didn't fit her image of the community. Proof that Paula had hired 2 ex-convicts, Marty Knox and Luis Rodriguez Vega, to pose as enforcement officers, complete with fake badges and weapons. A falsified inspection authority form created by Paula to justify unlawful entry. Residents were stunned. In a single day, everything about Oakwood Heights shifted. What had once been whispered suspicions became undeniable truths. The next morning, the HOA board resigned, every last one of them. That night, a special emergency meeting was held at the Oakwood Heights Community Center. This time, Dana and I were not just welcome. We were the guests of honor. It was Nan Carter, our elderly next-door neighbor, who took the podium. Her walker squeaked as she made her way to the front, but her voice was strong. I've lived here 40 years, she began, and I've never seen anything as shameful as what we allowed to happen. There were murmurs of agreement. Some people couldn't meet our eyes. Others looked like they wanted to. Nan continued. We let a tyrant control us with fear, and we let her turn neighbors against each other, but no more. She motioned toward us. This community owes Reed and Dana Calhoun more than an apology. They stood up when none of us did. They recorded, they documented, and they stayed strong through everything. Without them, we might still be under Paula's thumb. The room gave a soft, genuine round of applause. It wasn't much, but it was real. Then, in a unanimous vote, Non Carter was appointed interim HOA president until a new board could be formed. The first thing she did? Dissolved every citation Paula had ever issued. The second? Announced that all HOA security policies would be reviewed by an independent legal team. And the third, she hugged Dana and whispered, "Thank you, honey. You saved this place." The weeks that followed were filled with quiet healing. Neighbors, who had once crossed the street to avoid us, now stopped by with pies and flowers. Some admitted they had doubted us. Others apologized for their silence. One man, Henry Alvarez, the same guy who had started the neighborhood noise complaint chain, shook my hand one morning outside the garage. "I was wrong," he said simply. "I should have asked questions." Business picked up almost immediately. Word spread that I was the guy who took down the HOA monster, and suddenly every car in the neighborhood had something urgent that needed fixing. Dana, too, received something unexpected, a call from the local police department. They wanted her to help conduct training seminars for new recruits, focusing on dealing with impersonators and civilians asserting their rights under duress. Her quiet professionalism had turned into local legend. We weren't just the Calhouns anymore. We were the couple that stood up to tyranny and won. A month later, I watched Dana stand before a classroom of 20 cadets at the local police academy. She wore a simple blazer, a quiet smile, and carried nothing but a USB stick and the truth. She played the footage of her encounters with Marty and Rodriguez. She showed how calmly asking for badge numbers unraveled their entire scam, how observation, posture, and language can reveal deception, how asserting one's rights doesn't have to be loud, it has to be clear. You don't have to match aggression with aggression, she told the cadets. You match it with certainty. Calm is a weapon, truth is armor, and a camera is a sword. The class applauded. Afterward, one young officer in training approached her. "What gave you the confidence?" He asked. Dana looked out the window for a moment, then said, "Because I knew I wasn't just protecting my home. I was protecting the idea that no one, not even a self-appointed queen of an HOA, gets to rule through fear." 6 weeks after Paula's arrest, we walked the neighborhood as we once did when we first arrived, coffee in hand, smiles on our faces. Only now, the smiles we received back were genuine. Sunflowers bloomed at the edge of our lawn. The HOA color palette had been revised. Trash cans sat peacefully wherever people felt like putting them. Paula Riener's trial was set for the fall. She was facing a stack of federal charges: conspiracy, impersonation, embezzlement, unlawful surveillance, and attempted unlawful entry. The HOA was rebuilding with real rules, real transparency, and most importantly, real respect for people's boundaries. On our way back home, Nan called out from her porch. "Y'all better come to next month's HOA meeting," she said, grinning. "We're voting on the first ever community garden." Dana laughed. "Only if sunflowers are mandatory." Nan winked. "Honey, we'll make him the official neighborhood flower." As we walked inside, I looked at Dana, my wife, my shield, my strategist. "I still can't believe all this started over trash cans." She smiled. "No, it started when someone thought intimidation was power. They forgot some of us know what real power looks like.